I'm sure you've already seen a clip. I'm sure you've already gone through the rabbit hole and you've seen the other details, but it's time for my dig on everything. So, going forward, this is basically the weapons update. The way that weapons sandboxes will be updated next season. So, looking through it, of course, they give us some variety on basically charts, which is telling us some of the best gears or average uses. So, to put it blatantly, at high skill range PvP, hand cannons, pulse rifles, and submachine guns are up there. Go figure. But then, of course, at the high skill, the top 50 primary weapons. Who could have seen that coming? But then there's, of course, charts, which I guess it shows a variety of things that if you like stats or ideas about metas, there you go. But it basically shows the difference between the broad variety of people and high-end skill. So that is what a majority of the stuff up there is for. Then going forward on actual changes. Now, a global change coming, basically, if you didn't see already, the double special heavy ammo generation thing, no longer a thing. It was an unintentional bug, so now that using two special weapons will now generate the same amount of ammo as one primary weapon and one special. So basically, if you were double specialing just to make more heavy ammo, but it was killing builds, well, guess what? Now you can have something that's infinite ammo, so you can stop saying that you ran out of green ammo and you can't deal with any champions right now. Then reticles, they're continuing a mission to improve the reticle. Replace the perk active hipfire reticle element. The new one should work as a different field of view settings. Added a perk active indicator to symmetry and moved Grand Overture's charge meter further down the screen to reduce the instances of overlapping over reticle enemies. So there we go. Which I thought that might have been just like the dynamic Shayura's Wrath reticle, but I guess that's just more things changing. So more zoom and damage fall-off trading. Basically, what is going to be coming is that thing where they're trying to decrease the variance between optimal engagement ranges with mid-range weapons and the range changes that you're expecting. So before they go into that, this is basically some of the changes that will happen. Scales, damage fall-off distance, scale aim assist fall-off difference, increase accuracy, reduces recoil. But then going forward, let's see. There's a lot of other things here. This is basically a bunch of range changes to every primary thing in the game. So if you want to know how basically the range is gonna, or how range is gonna be fixed or changed based on zoom and rangefinder, everything else, basically what it will be like in the end of the day. So there's more details about that. Now, they wanted to rebalance the base damage fall-off on several weapon archetypes to account for new ADS damage fall-off, which is basically increasing a bunch of ranges in broad spectrum. And they pretty much added, well, there's a lot of more details on range that I'm just going to kind of blow through. An example of how everything will work, where it will be an adaptive frame hand cannon will have a range stat of 70, would have previously had its damage fall-off start at 31 meters, or 34 if it had rangefinder. Now, regardless of whether or not it has rangefinder or not, the damage fall-off will start at 33. So basically, it has more range in general, but at the same time, it has more capped range. Then, of course, shotguns, slugs, everything else, zoom and everything, and now for variety on there. And then custom-tuned exotic ranges for a variety of things that have their own custom zoom and everything. Ace of Spades with Memento Mori is active. Devil's Ruin when firing the laser beam. Revision 0 when Hunter's Trace is active. The Last Word will now have a damage fall-off scaler. Crimson now has a 1.3 damage fall-off scaler. Vex has a 1.5. Forerunner has a 2.0. And Ariadne's Vow now has a 2.4. Well, there was a lot of info, but basically range being changed, and that's all the details for that. Now, some weapon archetypes, starting off with hand cannons and how they feel like the complaints of hand cannons be underpowered in PvE, and they want to address that. Basically, increase the zero reload speed spat by 15%. So even if you have the lowest reload speed, then you have the most, or at least a little bit more. And PvE damage, increased damage against minor combatants, red bars by 20%, and major combatants, orange bars by 75%. And specifically with the Heavy Burst, change the Warden's Law to be the first member of a new subfamily, Heavy Burst. So I shall keep my eye out for that and just spawn an old one just in case. Then for bows, as mentioned previously, bows have had an issue with hit registration at longer ranges due to velocity of projectiles. So, a general change, reduce the minimum reload animation from 0.5 to 0.3 seconds. This means that applying the reload speed scalars on top of a high-speed reload stat will still have an effect. Increase the projectile velocity at full draw so that projectiles will continue to perform as they were hit scan at longer distances. Specifically for lightweight bows, though, they equalize the full draw projectile precision bow with precision or projectile velocity with precision bows. Then a change to SMGs, and now this is broad blanket. We'll get into some more specific stuff later. Aggressives, fix the RPM stat display to now correctly show 720. I guess there was some visual bugs there. Sidearms, the aggressive burst base damage is now reduced from 32 to 30. Pulse rifles, specifically the BXR Battler, increased zoom back to 20 because I guess it had lower zoom to account for everything. Shotguns, fixed the impact stat on the Comedian, which I guess was displaying incorrectly. Then for fusion rifles, they also fixed an issue where Adept Masterworks and Enhanced Intrinsic perks were increasing the damage dealt by fusions when they changed their charge time stat. Oh no. Then wave frame heavy grenade launchers. Basically, there's only one in the game, but the size and damage of the self-harm AoE is now reduced. It should make it feel safer to fire the projectile closer to the field. And general sword changes, specifically with guard. The energy now recharges after a short delay when used, but recharges much faster. The delay before recharge and the recharge rate both governed at the charge rate stat. This delay range between 2.7 and 1.05, decreasing with charge rate stat. We've massively increased the rate return after the delay to compensate, and the increases more at a higher charge rate stat. Even after the delay, swords now fully return to energy than from empty faster than this rework. Basically, while it might take a second to start reforming, it will reform a lot faster in general. Full power heavy attacks can now be used with any non-zero amount of energy sword rather than requiring full sword energy. They just won't have full use. We've also increased sword guard damage resistance, giving it between 82.5 and 95% damage reduction depending on the guard resistance stat. This damage resistance value is sharply reduced against other players, like glaives. Then it provides between a 52.5 and a 65% damage reduction depending on guard resistance stat. Now, the sword guard no longer loses energy when taking damage. As a result of the above, the guard efficiency has been removed as a stat. Sword guard duration now increases across every guard type, with those with the shortest duration benefiting the most. Sword guard talent nodes have had their stats squished down. Combined with the above, even though their stats have been reduced, their damage reduction, charge rates, and guard durations are now increased across the board. This allows origin traits and other sword perks with more room to increase these stats and allow performance beyond their service maximum. Which, I'm not gonna lie, it was so annoying seeing that any origin trait that included a sword basically was like, oh, because it's on a sword, you'll get more charge rate. Yeah, that doesn't go where people want it to go. And of course, sword guard talent nodes now visually affect the charge rate bar on the inspection screen when you hover over or select them, similar to other stat affecting nodes. Sword movement speed while blocking has been increased from a 0.75 to a 0.85, so expect a little bit faster moving while guarding. The Lamented Exotic Sword has a special case, so its charge rate and delay are unaffected, but still benefits from all the increased guard reduction and duration. Now, of course, and warning, this will be, if there's audio, that will be loud for a bit, but here is an example of how Monte Carlo works in the wild with this upcoming catalyst. Basically, immediately shooting, nothing happens, but it seems that after either a melee kill or Markov chain times 5 was there, you get the use of the bayonet on the very end of Monte Carlo. So there is that. So we don't have any other details if it's a times 5 damage thing or anything, but basically we're able to stab, and we'll learn more in the future. Quicksilver Storm specifically. We're getting into exotics in specific cases now. Players have been reporting that it felt like the ammo was not loaded in Quicksilver Storm at the correct time. We're investigating and discovered a misalignment with the animation and the ammo being loaded when corrected. Fixed an issue where the ammo was loading into Quicksilver Storm slightly too late in the reload animation. They also fixed the Dead Man's Tail impact stat on the cosmetic, but no changes to that otherwise. Two-Tailed Fox will now fire 3 rockets instead of just the 2 rockets with 2 rockets out of the tube. Verglass Curve, basically, apparently Whisper of Fissure detonations will generate Hail Barrage stacks if the stasis crystal was created by the weapon. And Shiver Quiver now activates when slowing enemies and increasing the slow stacks from 40 to 60 when hitting players with Hail Barrage, allowing for freeze if 2 crystals hit the same player. Basically, Verglass was not working well with stasis stuff, so they wanted to use it a little bit more. And the Nerf to Lay Monarch. Basically, let's see if everything is in here. Let's see. Oh, no, there's also details in the big thing. So we had decided to address both issues with Lay Monarch. So it now deals 85 damage on impact to the body and 136 to the head against players. They have also reduced the damage over time duration from 3 seconds down to 1.75, which makes it feel significantly less painful to be hit by this weapon. The damage over time total deals the same damage total against players, dividing into 6 ticks instead of 8, but we have increased the damage over time in PvE In PvE, this should result in a slight DPS increase, with the reduced impact damage being offset by the faster draw time, increased damage over time. They also reduced draw time down to 612 milliseconds, and reduced body shot damage from 100 to 85. Increased critically hit multiplier from 1.5 to 1.6. Crit damage against players goes from 150 to 136. And precision and increased damage over time effect listed here, and everything else, so hopefully Layman Arc isn't oppressive as it was before. Then Vex Mythoclast. It has basically been a unique thing where its RP rounds per minute reduced from 390 to 360 to match other high impact frame auto rifles, because I guess it's high impact frame, and even though I thought it was vertical. And increased damage against Meyer combatants, including red bars and orange bars, by 25%. So there we go. And another buff to Tommy's Matchbook, just because it launched a little slower. I guess more Scorch consistently. Actually, wait, hang on. Let's see this. Previously was 14 plus 7 with the enhanced, so it would have been 21, and now it's just 20. Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna lie, until Tommy's Matchbook is honestly dealing way less damage or even no more self-damage, I feel like it will never be good in anything, just like Touch of Malice. But here's some changes to Touch of Malice to hopefully bring it back to the game. So, increase the final round damage in PvE by 20%. Basically, when you have the leeching damage, it is more buffed now. Decrease the self-damage from the final round from 10 points to 7. Final round damage can no longer kill the user, so kind of like Tommy's Matchbook, and then increase the health awarded by Touch of Mercy perk from 30 to 75. Setting up the Touch of Mercy to work like Unrelenting, Guardians and Major Combatants give more points, and we increase the allotted time between kills. And the Ball of Darkness now appropriately deals arc damage and will blind combatants and stun unstoppable champions. So, maybe there will be use in PvE, but of course in high-end content, some self-harm doesn't exactly go well. Malfeasance, they fixed an issue where the Vorpal Weapon Catalyst wouldn't display the status buff text, okay. Cloud Strike, basically, reduce the lethal kill radius of lightning strikes against players, so hopefully Cloud Strike isn't the one-shot wipe 3 people thing it was. The buff to Wicked Implement. The timing window for creeping attrition has been increased from 3.5 to 4.5 seconds, so you have 4.5 seconds to trigger it. It can also activate the Tithing Harvest by destroying stasis crystals, which is pretty solid. The Wicked Implement Exotic Catalyst now also includes the Headstone perk. Yeah, Wicked Implement might be the end-all stasis gun than everything else. Now, Bipod. They changed the Bipod that we were all hoping for. Reduce the damage penalty from 40% to 25%. So basically, it doesn't deal so less damage, and at the same time, bait and switch, well, yeah, it's going to be a little bit better. An envious assassin, there is no longer a time limit after kills within which you must activate the perk to get another kill. The perk will not activate even if the magazine is overflowed. It will stop activating once you hit maximum mag size of 2.5 times or greater. Enhanced Envious Assassin now provides fractionally more ammo per kill instead of longer window after a kill. Changes to Under Over now provides bonus body shot damage against players with Woven Mail. Increase the bonus damage against combatant shields, and deals a significantly increased damage to enemies who are enhanced by Dark Cabal Overshields, in addition to enemies shielded by Lucent Maws. Now, PvE-wise, that actually could work out, but I'm not gonna lie, in some cases of the Cabal Overshields and everything else, they might just be too abundant that a damage buff is gonna do anything to them. Then, Under Pressure, the thing that makes special or fusion rifles so OP. Reduce the maximum accuracy code and scaler from 0.5 to 0.75. So a little Under Pressure nerf. And Shoot to Loot no longer triggers the reload when shooting a special brick that could not have been picked up, while also having an overflowed weapon. Explosive damage now interacts with Orbs of Power, so there we go. Valiant Charge. Perk now deactivates after the initial sword swing. Ambush no longer deactivates from healing full damage or being shot by allies. Explosive Light fixed a buff where the enhanced version of the perk was granting 2 stacks on the initial orb pickup. And then Chill Clip reduces slow stacks from 60 to 40, so now Chill Clip takes 3 shots to trigger, and Wolfpack rounds no longer trigger Chill Clip. Don't know about that last one. I know it's pretty solid, but at the same time, the amount of things that can roll Chill Clip is pretty much just fusion rifles. So, I don't know about that. And, of course, changes to crafting. So let's see here. We're boosting activity completion progress across several activity types for leveling up, which is Crucible, Trials of Osiris, Dares of Eternity, Wellspring, Gambit, and Platinum scoring of Legend or Master solo Lost Sectors. Although, really? Who's even still doing Wellspring if they don't need the patterns? Legitimate question. Seriously. But aside from that, they're also adding the capability for progress that exceeds the current level to roll over to the next. Basically, I guess if you did something and you maxed out, it wouldn't continue to level up on the next level, it would just top out. So, there we go. Then, going forward, to round out weapon progression changes, also adding capability to directly increase a weapon's level through currency expenditure. Oh! Crafted and enhanced weapons will both receive a new mod slot in their weapon details where you can spend Glimmer and Enhancement Cores to boost the level of the weapon. This mod will increase the weapon's level directly, leaving your existing progress towards the next level untouched. Rare candies for level weapons. And then there's no cap how far you can boost the weapon's level too. The cost of this boosting will increase relative to the level of the weapon. Weapon usage is meant to be the main path of increasing your level, however, with the restrictions of how many weapons you can level at a time, and the always increasing expansion in the amount of weapons to have a level, we want to provide an alternate method of leveling that allows you to both jump-starting the crafted weapon and also have the ability to level a larger amount of weapons, stockpile and inventory. We do not want level boosting costs to feel prohibitive, however, we do want players to make choices over which weapons they want to boost. So, getting to level 7 and then choosing a few stats, trying out your rolls, and then going forward from there, I guess that's an idea. And then Neomuna weapon pattern progression. In Season 22, we'll be making additional changes to help tackle the scarcity problem. No, you don't. Just let people do what they want. I did it in the first couple of weeks of Lightfall. Everyone else can do it. But regardless, Neomuna Weekly Pinnacle Story Mission Score Challenge will provide a guaranteed red border for the first times completed each week. The Neomuna Vendor Engram upgrade will increase the drop chance of Deep Sight Neomuna weapons. This is retroactive if you've already claimed the vendor upgrade. The Throne World Vendor Engram will also receive the same behavior for the Throne World Deep Sight weapons, and again, this will be retroactive. In Season 22, this will also fix a bug to the underlying Deep Sight drop system that manifested for the majority overhaul we did for Lightfall. This bug could decrease the Deep Sight drop rate as you near the completion of the pattern set. How dare they! Although this Deep Sight bug on its own will normally have a low impact on Deep Sight behavior, the problem was exacerbated when coupled with the lack of deterministic Deep Sight sources from Neomuna weapons. So, holy changes. There was a lot more there. I had listened in on a few of the exotic changes, but didn't realize how many more was down that list. So generally, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a pretty solid changes all around. I still say they need to just delete Immortal and start again with a different SMG. But aside from that, Sword Guard, just going through briefly on some of the changes. Range changes, good, because the range stat was getting annoying, always looking for it. And of course, some custom tuning is always nice. Now, hand cannon buff, good, although I remember Bungie saying they didn't want to buff hand cannons to one-shot things in GMs. That's just, I don't know, seems weird. And then, of course, bow changes, of course, better. I guess that means bows are a little more consistent. SMGs, have aggressive frame RPMs and everything. Sidearms, reducing base damage in Crucible, that's pretty good, at least aggressive frames. Changing Battler, I guess that's pretty cool. Impact stat, that's just visual. Fusion Rifles, I guess that works out because it's unintended. And does anyone actually use Waveframe Heavies? They just need to kind of adjust something about that to make it better, other than self, because Winter Bite still does a lot more self-damage than that. But then, Sword Guard Rate, always nice, because swords are just kind of slap, and only Stronghold builds that are meant to be unstoppable are there, so hopefully that increases some diversity there. And of course, Monte Carlo Catalyst and everything else individual. Now, Quicksilver Storm, that was a visual bug, same with Dead Man's Tale. Two-Tailed, I'm not so sure about that, because now that might have actually just affected its damage per second drastically. Well, at least in terms of the pure ultimate, like, prime stat, having it shoot 3 rockets now just kind of makes it, I don't know, it's hard to say in the long run. And then the change to Verglass, even though no one uses it in PvP, I guess that's a good change to hopefully spawn some things. Laminarch nerf, always nice to see after the oppression than it was everywhere else. Change to Vex, I didn't honestly see just because it was unexpected. Tommy's, like I said, it just needs to get changed entirely. As much as it's very much themed and just another touch of malice, we need more than just another touch of malice in Solar. Then, of course, the change of touch of malice, at the same time, even if it can't kill you, I don't know if I'll see it still being used in high-end content, unless it's a very risk-reward thing, but if the reward is not going to be worth the risk, then I don't see it. Malfeasance, that's just a display thing. Cloud Strike nerf in PvP, nice, just because then that thing. All the Wicked Implement sounds nice, because it's bringing it to what a lot of people hoped it would be. Change the bipod. Sounds nice. Envious Assassin. I never use it, so don't much care. Under Over. Seems nice, but at the same time, when is it going to be used? Under Pressure. Nerf for fusion rifles. Nice again. Shoot to loot change. It's hard to say because I don't use that either or know anyone that uses it. Valiant Charge. Sword. So, meh. Ambush. Just a little more consistency, so that's nice for all the Seraph or the... Is it Seraph? Chosen weapons? No, that's not even right. Rasputin weapons, I guess. And then Explosive Light, a bug is nice, even though it was a nerf in a way. And the Choke Clip nerf, I didn't expect to see, but I'm also not so happy about, just because now everything that has Choke Clip, I guess, will be a lot harder to use to freeze. I get that it's a skeleton key in Champions, but at the same time, you have to be consistently freezing, otherwise they will instantly pop up whatever they're doing to freeze it. I don't know. But then, of course, some buffs to weapon progression is always nice, and of course, manual progression is pretty nice when... Perfect example, I don't have a lot of time to work on everything, and when I end up locking in a loadout and using them, I use them until they're fully done, and then, you know, I gotta move on to the next one, which could take a while. But aside from that, that's pretty much the broad spectrum of everything. My name is Matt Scorpion, and thank you for watching.